Chapter 8 Flies and Spiders. They walked in a single file. The entrance to the pass was like a sort of arc leading into a gloomy tunnel made by two great trees that leaned together, too old and strangled with ivy and hung with lichen to bear more than a few black leaves. The pass itself was narrow and wound in and out among the trunks. Soon the light at the gateway was like a bright hole far behind, and the quiet was so deep that their feet seemed to thump along while all the trees leaned over them and listened. As their eyes became used to the dimness, they could see a little way to either side in a sort of darkened green glimmer. Occasionally, a slender beam of sun that had luck to slip in through some opening in the leaves far above, and slipped still more luck in not being caught in the tangled boughs and matted twigs beneath, stabbed down thin and bright behind matted twigs before them, but this was seldom, and it soon ceased together. There were black squirrels in the wood. As Bilbo's sharp, inquisitive eyes got used to seeing things, as he could catch a glimpse of them whisking off the path and scuttling behind tree trunks, there were queer noises too, grunts, scuffling, and hurrying in the undergrowth. And among the leaves that lay piled endlessly thick in places of the forest floor, but what made the noise he could not see. The nastiest things they saw were the cobwebs, dark, dense cobwebs with threads extraordinarily thick, often stretched from tree to tree or tangled in the lower branches on either side. There were none stretched across the path, but whether because some magic kept it clear, or for what other reason they could not guess, it was not long before they grew to hate the forest as heartily as they had hated the tunnels of the goblins, and it seemed to offer even less hope of any ending. But they had to go on and on. Long after they were sick on sight from the sun and of the sky, and longed for the feel of wind on their faces, there was no movement or air down under the forest roof, and it was everlasting still and dark and stuffy. Even the dwarfs felt it, who were used to tunneling and lived at the times for long whiles without the light of the sun. But the hobbit who liked holes to make a house but not to spend summer days in, felt that he was being slowly suffocated. That night, the nights were the worst. It became pitch black, not what you call pitch black, but really pitch. So black that you really could see nothing. Bilbo tried flopping his hand in front of his nose, but he could not see it at all. Well, perhaps it is not true to say that they could not see nothing. They could see eyes. They slept closely huddling together, and took it in turns to watch. And when it was Bilbo's turn, he would see gleams into the darkness round them, and sometimes pairs of yellow and white, or white, red and green eyes would stare at him from a little distance, and then slowly fade and disappear, and slowly shine out again in another place. And sometimes they would gleam down from the branches just above him, and that was most terrifying. But the eyes that he liked the least were horrible. Pale, bulbous sort of eyes. Insect eye, he thought. Not animal eyes, only they are much too big. Although it was not yet very cold, they tried lighting fires at night, but they soon gave that up. It seemed to bring hundreds of eyes all around them, though the creatures, whatever they were careful never to let their bodies show in the little flicker of the flames. Worse still, nearly as big as your hand, flapping Worse still, it brought thousands of dark gray and black moths, some nearly as big as your hand, flapping and whirling around the ears. They could not stand that, nor the hue black as a top hat either, so they gave up fires and sat at night and dozed in the enormous and canny darkness. All this went on for what seemed to the hobbit ages upon ages, and he was always hungry, for they were extremely careful with their provisions. Even so, as day followed day, and still the forest seemed just the same, they began to get obnoxious. The food would not last forever. In fact, it was in fact already beginning to get low. They tried shooting at the squirrels, and they wasted many arrows before they managed to bring one down on their path. But then they roasted it. It provided horrible to taste, and they shot no more squirrels. They were thirsty too, for they had none too much water, and in all the time they had seen neither spring or stream. Backed by a running water, it flowed fast and strong, but not very wide right across the way, and it was black and or looked it in the gloom. It was well that Baron had warned them against it, or they would have drunk from it. Whether its color and it filled some of their empty skins at its bank, and it was they only thought of how to cross the way, and it was black or looked as it was only how to cross it without getting wet themselves in water. There had been a bridge of wood across, but it had been rotted and fallen, leaving only the broken posts near the bank. Bilbo, kneeling at the brink and peering forward, cried, "There's a boat against the far bank. Now, why couldn't it have been on this side?" "How far away do you think it is?" asked Thorin, for by now that knew Bilbo had the sharpest eyes among them. "Not at all far. I should think about 12 yards. 12 yards? I should have thought it was 30 at least. But my eyes don't see as well as they used 100 years ago. Still, 12 yards is as good as a mile. We can't jump it, and we daren't try to wade or swim. Can any of you throw a rope?" "What's good of that? The boat isn't sure to be tied up even if we couldn't hook it, which I doubt." "I don't believe it is tied," said Bilbo, "though of course I can't be sure in the light. But it looks to me as if it was just drawn up on the bank, which is low just there where the path goes down into the water. Dori's the strongest, but Philly is the youngest and still has the best sight." Said Thorin. "Come here, Philly, and see if you can see the boat Mr. Baggins is talking about." Philly thought he could, so he had stared a long while to get an idea of the direction. The others brought him a rope. These had several wisdom, and on the ends of the longest they fastened one of the large iron hooks they had used for catching their packs to the straps above their shoulders. Philly took it in the hand, balanced it for a moment, and then flung it across the stream. Splash! It fell in the water. "Not far enough," said Bilbo, who was peering forward. "A couple of feet, and you would have dropped it on the boat. Try again. I don't suppose the magic is strong enough to hurt you. If you just touch a bit of wet rope." Philly picked up the hook, and when he had drawn it back, rather doubtfully this time he threw it with great strength. "Steady," said Bilbo. "You have thrown it right into the wood on the other side. Now, draw it back gently." Philly held the rope back slowly, and after a while Bilbo said carefully, "It is lying on the boat. Let's hope the hook will catch." It did. The rope went taut, and the Philly pulled in vain. Killy came to help, and then Owen and Gloin. They tugged, and then suddenly they all fell over their backs. Bilbo was on the lookout, however, caught the rope, and with a piece of stick fended off the little black boat as it came rushing across the stream. "Help!" he shouted, and Balin was just in time to seize the boat before it floated off down the current. "It was tied after all," said he, looking at the slapped painter that was still dangling from it. "That was a good pull, my lads. Fu, and a good job. That our rope was the strongest." "Fu will cross first," asked Bilbo. "I shall," said Thorin, "and you will come with me. And Philly and Balin, that's as many as the boat to hit a hole at a time. After that, Killy on Owen and Goen and Dory, and next Ori and Nori, Biffer, Buffer, and Lush, Dwarring and Bomber. I'm always last. I don't like it," said Bomber. "It's someone else's turn today. Um, you should not be so far. You must be the last. And like this boat, Lord, don't start grumbling against orders, or something bad will happen to you. There aren't any oars. How are you going to push the boat back to the far bank?" asked the Hobbit. "Give me another length of rope and another hook," said Philly, and when they had got it ready, he cast it into the darkness ahead and as high as he could throw it. Since it did not fall down again, they saw that it must have struck in the branches. "Get it now," said Philly, "and one of you haul on the rope that is stuck in the tree on the other side. One of the others must keep hold of the hook. We use that first. And when we are safe, keep hold of the hook. We use that first. And when we are safe on the other side, he can hook it on, and you can draw back the boat. Draw the boat back." In this way, they were all soon on the far bank, safe across the enchanted stream. Tuamin and had just scrambled out with the coiled rope on his arm, and Bomber, still grumbling, was getting ready to follow when something bad did happen. There was a flying sound of horses' hooves on the pass ahead. Out of the gloom came suddenly the shape of a flying deer. It charged into the dwarves and bowled them over, then gathered itself for a leap. High it sprang, cleared the water with a mighty jump, but it did not reach the other side in safety. Thorin was the only one who had kept his feet and his wits. As soon as they had landed, he had bent his bow and fitted an arrow in case a hidden guardian of the boat appeared. Now he sent a swift and sure shot into the leaping beast. As it reached the farther bank, it stumbled. The shadows swallowed it up, but they heard the sound of hooves quickly falter, and they then go still. Before they could shout in praise of the shot, however, a dreadful wail from Bilbo put all thoughts of vengeance on their minds. "Bomber has fallen in. Bomber is drowning," he cried. It was only too true. Bomber had only 1 foot on the land, where the heart bore down on him and sprang over him. He had stumbled, thrusting the boat away from the bank, and it toppled back into the dark water with his hand slipping off the slimy roots of the edge. While the boat span slowly off and disappeared, they could still see his hood above the water when they ran the bank. Quickly they flung a rope with a hook towards him. His hand caught it, and they pulled him to the shore. He was drenched from hair to boot, of course, but that was not the worst. When they laid him on the bank, he was already fast asleep, with one hand clutching the rope so tight that they could not get it from his grasp. And fast asleep, he remained in spite of all they could do. There they were still standing over him, cursing their ill luck, and Bomber's clumsiness, and lamenting the loss of the boat, which made it impossible for them to go back and look for the heart. When they became aware of the dim blowing off in the horns in the wood, and the sounds of the dogs baying far off, hear the noise of the great hunt going by to the north or the path, though they saw no sign of it.